YouTube. I thought I'd shoot a little video on this Marlon side-by-side rack. You see promotional videos, they don't really show it close up too much. You can see it's all powder coated aluminum, pretty nicely welded. Crossbars across the front and the back here, pretty well braced, so it's pretty solid. I like these kind of pockets in the front here, so as you ride up the thing, your front wheels fall into that. Once it's in park, the machine's not going to roll out of those holes there, and it's pretty secure for you to get in and out and strap it down and all of that. It comes with two different lengths of these cross pieces here that you see bolted in there, so it can be set up for a long bed. This is an 8-foot bed truck, or for a short bed, this cross piece ends up getting bolted here, and that center bracket ends up getting bolted to that tab that's already in there. And then this is set up for a 2-seat side-by-side, but they've made this front piece kind of modular, and there's an extension that bolts on and moves this farther forward to fit a 4-seat machine. And then the side rails, I guess, for the 4-seat conversion are longer, so these would get replaced if you didn't order one as a 4-seat rack. Basically, as my understanding, you can get the parts and just convert one of these for a 2-seater. And then the other thing I haven't seen any videos on is they make toolboxes that are wedge shaped that apparently will bolt right up to these racks, and having some protection from theft and some places to keep some tools and riding gear and stuff out of the weather sounded like a good idea. Naturally, they're expensive, you know, that they're custom made in a taper to fit under this deck and over the bed, so it'll be interesting to see how those look. Okay, so here's what I've got. A nice finish on them, nice chrome hinges. Kind of a bit of a, for the price I kind of expected maybe a little nicer lock than this wafer lock. Nicely done gasket, door hinge, that kind of stuff. Again, nicely welded. You see one minor dent, which I think maybe they were made that way. There isn't really a mark in the powder coat. But the other thing I noticed, there's no brackets or holes or anything. From their YouTube video, I kind of expected that it would, you know, like take those nuts off or something and that they bolt right up. I haven't taken the other one out of the box yet. Maybe there's directions in there. So here's the other one. I went ahead and unpacked. Seems to be just a mirror image of the other one that I've opened, and I don't see any mounting hardware or any instructions or anything like that either. So I don't know if there was supposed to be a bag of mounting hardware and directions or what, but I kind of expected these to be kind of a complete just bolt them on sort of deal. But I guess we'll see. Marlon, I put in a call to their customer support hopefully, and maybe I'll get some guidance. So Marlon got back to me. They emailed me instructions, and apparently it could have come with 4 bolts. In essence, you take these 3 1/2-inch bolts and nuts off the safety rail here, and these were, I think, M6 by 3 countersunk machine screws holding this E-track in, and you get this up here and drill 1/2-inch holes through here, and I got some big fender washers and put the factory nylock nuts back through. Then back here, those were drilled out at 1/4 inch, but they'll send 4 5/16 by 3.5 bolts there, countersunk bolts, and that you need to buy 4 3 by 1/2 inch stainless steel bolts and nuts. I didn't understand at the time, but the directions say to attach it to the diagonal braces front and rear each box. I went ahead and I used a little bit smaller bolt because I had some on hand. I think it's rock solid. The diagonal that they're talking about, that's pretty clear. I didn't know on this side if they meant to hit it up here, but you can actually wiggle this bottom side. So you can see I ended up putting both bolts along the bottom, and that's super secure. So I guess what I'd say as far as installing these, hopefully yours comes with the bolts here and you can drill those out for bigger bolts. Once I get those from Marlon, I've drilled these out, so I'll go ahead and put in the bigger hardware. Anyway, pull these bolts in that E-track, these bolts, get you some fender washers, lay a blanket or something over the bed of the truck, and then I used a couple of ratcheting box clamps. You don't really need those pieces. And I found it won't quite sit completely flush to this because, there's weld reinforcement. Being aluminum, you'd expect weld reinforcement. But it'll get fairly tight. I actually found it wanted to kind of teeter-totter one way or the other, so I put just a normal bar clamp across that just to kind of hold it tight up against there while I drilled it. Anyway, they are super sharp looking. They're very, very solid. I'll put some rubber non-skid stuff on the bottom there, I think, and be good to go. Here's another little redundant clip. So you can see I've run these straps over the far side of the wheel tracks on both sides and have those ready to go, and I've got my fender protector down. And then doing this by myself, I've got a couple of bar clamps that I'll use just to make sure that it's held tight on both sides. So the back one, I butted the other one not up to this piece because that weld bead would kind of hold it from sitting flush, but right up flush against the weld bead. And I think that's perfect. You wouldn't want to go any farther forward because you don't want when you drill this through, you want want it to hit some meat so you can get some fender washers and stuff and nuts on the inside. And then I think just because they said to use 1/2 inch 3, I think I will go ahead and do that. When he sent that email, I thought he meant that you had to replace these screws. Didn't have the thing in front of me, and I didn't remember that there are 3 on each side. So when he said you need to buy 4 of them, and then in the directions they sent, there wasn't an illustration, but it was on the next page. They talked about putting 4 bolts, 1 on the front and 1 on the back of each side on the diagonal supports. And like I said, I wasn't sure if they meant to shoot it up here, but it seemed to me that the bottom of the box is a little bit bouncy, so putting it through here I think makes sense. But I probably will go ahead and just make those 1/2 inch. I kind of think they've done their finite strain analysis generally on this thing. It's super solid and well made, so I will follow their instructions. But yeah, I'm very much impressed. And then the other side here with the boxes closed. You kind of have to maybe see these in person, but they look really sharp, and I'm really going to appreciate having the storage back from when I had a commercial canopy on this thing with side toolboxes that lock. And I actually might think about putting some Lexan or plexiglass or something on some angle aluminum between them, and maybe across the front of the frame here, not to make it completely watertight, but just to have keep the major snow and weather and stuff off of whatever you might want to store under here. Might be nice, to say nothing for the mud and goop or whatever that drips off your machine. So even if that wasn't perfectly dry and clean in there all the time, gear in a bag or firewood for your camp or that kind of stuff that you don't want covered in rain and snow or whatever, would just be, I think, a lot more useful space. Anyway, yeah, I'd highly recommend these. I'm really happy with them. They've done a nice job of powder coating. The welding's pretty nice. Considering, they're making these in small batches too, that they only, they're custom to fit under these racks. Yeah, they're pricey, but I understand why. I wouldn't build them for what they sell them for. So, anyway, have a good day. Psych. One more thing I was going to mention. It's handy to have a 90-degree drill to get in there, or a short stubby drill. My normal heavy-duty Milwaukee is a bit big to try to get in there straight. So the only 90 I have is kind of a light-duty pneumatic, but it works. And boy, I haven't heard the scream of a pneumatic drill in a long time. Don't miss that. Young whippersnappers that have only used lithium tools don't know how lucky they have it.